Yeah, Sound Current was a project I had done with the Rochester Orchestra years ago. And that's a college orchestra in upstate New York. Sound Theories was the music from the performances I did with the Metropole Orchestra in Holland. And it was a wonderful concert and a wonderful event. And it consisted of two parts. First part was music that I had composed for the orchestra and a little rock band ensemble that did not include me playing with the orchestra. The second half was about an hour of music of me playing the guitar with the orchestra. So that was really the difference. And we did 5 beautiful shows, and they were all recorded, and I cut together various takes to create the 2 albums, the double CD that's now Sound Theories. And there will be a DVD coming out that is the recording of the last night of the performances in Holland. Well, you know, I was always fascinated with the way music looked on paper. You know, it always just looked beautiful to me. And I wanted to understand it, and I wanted to know how to write it. And I studied it. Even when I was a kid, when most people were like drawing stick figures and stuff, I was writing notes, you know. And eventually I learned what they meant and how to use them and how to, you know, utilize them to make music and to make people work together. So I always kept up my compositional studies, and I had various opportunities through the years to compose music, and I did. I probably composed 1,000% more music than was actually ever performed. But then, in 2002, I got together with Coda Kloot from the NPS in Holland, which is a national public radio station. And he puts on these cultural events in Holland where he chooses a musician that he thinks has you know, various skills and can create an interesting concert with the orchestra and what they normally do. So he chose me, he approached me to do one of these, and I was all over it because it gave me an opportunity to actually hear what I was writing. So that's how the concerts came about, really. Well, you know, obviously you need to kind of follow the thing that you're interested in, and I love the guitar, and I know you do because you're reading Young Guitar, and you're probably a young guitar player. But if you ever want to have your music performed by other instruments, you got to know how to write it so that they can understand it, because when it comes to an orchestra, you can't show them what to play. You can work with other people who you can show, and then they can write it down and give it to the orchestra, but that's called an orchestrator, you know. But for me, I like to write the music, and it's really not that difficult. You just have to first of all understand, you know, what notes are. That, you know, this is an E, and that it's here on the staff, you know. And then you have to understand each instrument, how to write for that instrument. And that's just, you know, you got to know that a violin plays, this is its lowest note, this is its highest note, this is how you write for, you know, this is what it means when you put an accent on it, you know. And then if you're going to write for a harp, you have to study it. You have to understand how wide they can reach. You got to understand how the pedals work, because a harp has pedals, and when they step on one pedal, all of the notes will either go sharp or flat according to the pedal they step on. So then you have to understand how to write for the harp. You know, it's a study. It's a study. And I've always been fascinated with it, and I've studied it my whole life, you know. So It's really just a means. Understanding how to write music for an orchestra is just a means to an end. Great composers don't think about it. They don't have to think about the limitations because they already know them. They use what they know to make this in here real. They don't write for the sake of just because they understand how to. That's just a part of it. My music is kind of, a lot of it's very compositional in nature, and when I listen to it, when I'm creating it, a lot of times I'm thinking of a much bigger picture in my head than what I'm capable of recording. Because recording with a lot of instruments is very expensive, obviously, So I do use a lot of samples and stuff sometimes to create an orchestra sound. But I'm not looking for my music to sound like a conventional orchestra. I mean, that's been done, I'm just looking at it in more of like colors and forms and stuff. So when it came time to choose the music that I was going to play with the orchestra, it was very difficult because there was so much that I wanted to do. But I had to limit it, obviously. So songs like Liberty, for instance, which is on Passion and Warfare, is a very obvious kind of a choice because it's a very compositional, grandiose kind of a song, and it works very well with an orchestra. Picking something like the Attitude song is a little more challenging because, the Attitude song is all about guitars. And getting a guitar to work with an orchestra is very difficult because they're very different. An orchestra instrument is, it's an organic sound. It's an ambient sound that's created with wood or brass that you blow into, or it's an ambient, organic kind of a production of sound, whereas a guitar is all electronic. It's an electronic sound. So when the frequencies mesh, it can be a disaster. You got to be really careful and figure out how to make each instrument have its own space. Well, with Kill the Guy with the Ball, I wanted to create an interesting, fun, entertaining visual. So when I come out, I told the orchestra, when I come out, I'm going to go to the string section first, and I'm going to play something, and they don't know what I'm going to play. And then they have to mimic it one time. And then I'm going to do it again, and when they mimic what I play, they have to keep repeating it. And I just explained this to them. It's written in the score too, So I did I did something like something like that, And then they went and then when they were repeating it, they kept repeating. And then I went to the woodwinds, and I went something like that, And they went so now you got the strings and the woodwinds, and then I think it was the brass. I forget, strings, woodwind, strings, woodwinds, brass, percussion, So then by the end of it, you've got all of these sections doing all these weird things, all these different things. And then we break into Kill the Guy with the Ball. And it was different every night. That was the fun thing.